a good breakfast. Hi, welcome to Mr. Dyer's Musings. I'm Mr. Dyer. Happy 4th of July. If you're watching this, I hope you like antiques, because today we're going to be taking a look at this really old, original camp stove. Stay with me. As always, I like to thank you guys, my subscribers, my viewers. Thank you for taking the time to watch this. If you're new to my channel, we always take a look at antiques. We always look at artifacts. If it's good enough shape, we actually use the artifacts. We discuss its history and show how they were used. Today we are taking a look at something that's pretty neat, and some of you have spotted it in my earlier videos, and I hope you're psyched about it because it's pretty cool. I'm not gonna lie, it's a neat little piece. And it has a heritage to it that we're going to dive into. If you're new to my channel though, after this one, check out my other videos if you like it, because we have a ton of Civil War content and early campcraft material. So if you like that stuff, if you like antiques, if you like artifacts, then this is the channel for you. Okay, so we're going to take a look at this little stove. Some of you have watched me use this in my last video when we talked about sweetened condensed milk when I made coffee. Some of you saw it in the video before that, just sitting at the table next to me. And that was all on purpose to try to get you guys a little interested in this neat little piece. Now, it is a camp stove. How far back does it date? It's kind of hard to tell. There's only one marking, and it's on the very bottom. And it's J.F. Bingham, and it's Lawrence. That's all it says on the bottom. And in my research, I found out that there's a J.F. Bingham that in Lawrence, Massachusetts, that had a steel company, and they did steelwork stuff. I couldn't find any catalog. I couldn't find another one like it. I just couldn't dig up anything on it. So maybe if you're in the area of Lawrence, Massachusetts, and you have something for me that you could share about J.F. Bingham, when their company started, that would be very helpful. But we do have some other clues about this piece. We could talk about the material that it was constructed out of, the techniques. Are there any hardware on it that might help us date it? Things like that. Well, when we look at it, it looks face value like it's made out of tin, okay? But it's not exactly made out of tin. It does have some patina on it, green patina. So whenever you see green, that usually tells you that it has some type of copper in it. There's nothing that's scraped off of it that says that it's steel. It's very, very light, even though it is what it is. It's not aluminum. So what is the material? If we look here on the inside, sorry, I'll wait for the wind. If we look here on the inside, we actually see some copper popping out. So this is tinned copper. Tinned copper. So why copper? Why not tin steel? Well, this piece right here, this is called a heat shield. It's called a heat shield, and it does have some handles because it can get hot. You can hold it like so. But copper, if you're familiar with antique cookware, a lot of times the bottoms were made out of copper, and that's about the even distribution of heat. If we go to the next piece, we see this thing. This is a tin can. Has a little screw top. It has a bunch of little holes in it. This is what was used for the fuel of the little stove. And this, by the patina and everything that we can tell, and a little bit of rust, we know that this is tinned steel. And that gets dropped in there like so for storage. I do need to get my tinsmith buddy Axel Ulrich, see if he can make me a reproduction of this, since I can't use that anymore. it has a cup and it has a lid. Now if we look inside the lid, we don't see any type of corrosion on it. On top, we don't see any type of corrosion on it. So I believe with the soldering and everything and the hints that it gives that this is also a tin steel, not copper. Inside the cup, we have a little burner, and there's no markings on the burner whatsoever. And ultimately, we look at the cup. What's the cup made out of? Well, it's riveted on the inside. There's no corrosion, and based off of what I know of the polish and everything, I would say that this is aluminum. Okay, so we have some hints there. We have a tin canister, tin steel canister. We have a copper tin heat shield, and we have an aluminum cup, and we have this type of burner. Okay, so now let's talk about this burner itself. The burner has the name Watchet and Union on it. Union Watchet. And when I did the research on this, I couldn't find anything on it either. And I went to one of my Facebook groups, Bannerman's Vintage Camping, which if you like vintage campcraft, check out that group. People on there are really awesome. It's all about vintage camping. You know, we're talking early 1900s to the 1930s. And there's a gentleman on there who is very experienced in vintage camping. He's a collector, Mr. Vining. He also has a YouTube channel, so check it out, Sarge Vining. He suggested that based on the coloring of the wick and how it was white, it wasn't yellow, and it being a camp stove, there was most likely an alcohol burner. An alcohol burner, not kerosene. Now kerosene is made from coal oil. That's what it is. It's coal oil. Whereas alcohol, the type of alcohol that they use is methyl alcohol or wood alcohol. Okay. Now if you're into backpacking stoves, they still use alcohol stoves pretty frequently, but they're a lot more efficient than this very basic type of wick burner. Now they used these type of burners even at the time of the American Civil War for pharmaceutical use and lab use. In fact, one of the items that was required to be carried out in the field in the hospital corpsman's knapsack, which I did a video of, was an alcohol burner. So this type of burner has a long history. And wood alcohol goes all the way back to Chinese ancient history. And it became popularized in the 1600s. So what does that tell us about dating this particular piece? Well, because of the type of alcohol burner that this is, and it doesn't have a top piece that distributes the alcohol and it uses a wick, we can safely assume, along with all the other hints, that this dates to the late 1800s. The late 1800s. And that's all I can give. Now, aluminum was around in the late 1800s. We did have manufacturing processes that did make aluminum, but it was very expensive. Aluminum was at one point a kind of like a symbol of wealth. In fact, since I collect straight razors, as you might know from my earliest videos, if you have an aluminum scaled straight razor from the late 1800s, then that was just as good, if not better, than a pearl handled or ivory handled straight razor. That was a symbol of class. Now, very quickly here in the US and across the world, manufacturing of aluminum almost overnight. Like it was not a costly item for a very long period of time, but by the 1900s, aluminum was very inexpensive to produce. So we can safely date that this cup was probably, like I said, date in the very late 1800s, 1890s, maybe the 1910s. But if the burners, the type of burners that was used for camp stoves, by the 1890s, this was even antiquated. So it's really hard to say without knowing about this particular company, the J.F. Bingham in Lawrence, Massachusetts, exactly when this stove was made. Okay, so that's the history of it. How does it work? You have your can of fuel that's carried inside there, it's packed away. You have your burner that's stored in your cup. You would pour the alcohol into the burner. You would place the burner in the stove with the wick up a little bit. You would light it. And what this heat shield did is it prevented the wind from blowing it out. It also kept the heat in just this one area. The cup with little butterfly handles would sit inside like so. And you can even put that to the side. And it has a lid. Now anything that's cooked inside a pot, familiar with cooking, if you put a lid on it, it's going to cook a lot faster. And that's pretty handy for this type of setup. I've tried cooking using something on the bottom to raise the burner on skillets, and it does work. It just takes forever. However, with the heat shield system and the cup system, cooking bacon in a very, very small surface area and things like that is doable. It's pretty easy, just like a standard. You just kind of got to do it little bits by bits. Making coffee or soup, this works out wonderfully. The lid fits on there nice and tight. As you can see, I can lift up on it. So that means that the heat is going to stay inside the pot. Now, this type of cooking system is very similar to another type of system that was used in the American Civil War. Now, I do a medical impression now when I do my Civil War reenactments, and this is very similar to what's commonly referred to as the nurse's lamp. Nurse's lamp. Now, in those old nursing lamps, it had a heat shield made out of tin. It had a place for you to put a burner. It had a cup or a bowl, sometimes stackable cups and bowls, and they always had a lid. And what this was used for was as a food warmer, not so much as food preparation, but as a food warmer for those who are stuck in the bed, so maybe they can't eat things right away, so it keeps it warm for them. And if you have special diets like heated broth, then this is very useful. So that's what it is. It's a camp stove, antique vintage camp stove. It works really well for making coffee. Not so well for many other things. I'd rather cook on the fire. But in the morning in a tent, if you want your cup of coffee rather quickly while you're getting the fire going, this is a really nice answer to that. Or if it's raining and you're stuck in the tent and you have nothing better to do, cooking taking a longer time to cook isn't such a big deal. Now, if you're a Civil War reenactor, used to be some sutlers that would sell the nurse's lamps. I can't find any anymore. Mill Creek was one of them that used to sell a nurse's lamp. You might be able to find one out there somewhere secondhand. I've never really seen too many of them in a reenactment field. You might want to find a tinsmith and have them reproduce one for you. But they were mostly used in in-place hospitals, not so much out in the field. Out in the field, soldiers were not kept in beds for very long. They were transported to larger hospitals for longer stays. So after a battle, if you got an amputation, you wouldn't stay in the field very long at all. They would get an ambulance to take you, or a boat to take you, or a train to take you to a larger hospital like in Washington, D.C., or Cincinnati, or Philadelphia. And that's where you would really see these type of food warmers, nursing lamps, more static, stable environments, not out in the field. If you have any questions, please send them my way. Please leave a comment. I hope that was kind of interesting to you. Food always brings people together. And on 4th of July, as we celebrate our nation's independence, or those of you who might not be from the United States, celebrate possibly your own country's independence on your own day in your own way, food is usually involved. And having this today to talk to you just seems very fitting. So I hope you have a great day in celebrating whatever it is today, maybe just being alive. You have some good food, surround yourself with family and friends. Hope you have a wonderful week. Give a kiss and a hug to your loved ones, and take care.